Does things to a man. Oh, you could have told me. I'm about to do a video of fly dying. Fuck's sake.
Mine is up. Mine is up. Mine is up.
Is that recording already?
No.
1 minute 13, 14.
Is it? So, how did you enjoy the weekend?
Oh well.
It's crazy, I'm putting you on the spot here, aren't I?
Yeah, you are. Yeah. It's a loaded question because it's well, this whole weekend's been a pretty emotional experience from start to finish, really, isn't it? 'Cause it's been a real journey of meeting people that I've admired yourself for a long time, you know, and sharing skills. Doing hand drill together looks like a highlight. You know.
That was good, yeah. I've got the blisters to prove
Oh yeah,
it, so yeah.
Hopefully the camera will be able to pick
Yeah, I
that
don't know if the
up.
camera's going to pick that up, but yeah, I've got a few blisters there. Hands were in condition, so.
But no, I mean it was a beautiful kind of event because it was nice and small, and all the people were fairly familiar with each other, and just a really good atmosphere. And of course, you guys brought me in and treated me like I was part of the family, and that made me feel welcomed and warm. And
But you are part of the family. You know. I think you play a bigger part in the bushcraft community than you would actually imagine, and you inspire people to do things. It's one thing that I really like about you is the way you put yourself out. You've gone through an amazing journey, and I've been following your journey, and you know, I sort of left bushcraft. In them days we didn't call it bushcraft. It was just what we did. We went out in the bush and we enjoyed it.
yeah,
And I discovered bushcraft when I came to the UK. Seeing you do the primitive skills inspired me to get back into it. I mean, the hand drill, that was mostly inspired by you. You know, so yeah.
sorry about that, mate. The blisters will heal, I promise.
So I look up to you. I mean, you've done brilliant, and yeah, I hope the journey continues.
Well, I mean it will, you know, and events like this where you're meeting people that you've followed for a long time and stuff, you know, it's just, you get the feeling, as you're here, you get the feeling that it's the start of something.
Yeah.
You know, you don't feel like it's, you come here, you go away and you go, okay, well that was nice, and then you move on to the next thing. It feels like there's something that will be continued.
Yeah.
And it's a strange feeling, you can't really put it into words, it's just sort of in your chest, it's just a sort of knowing that this is the start of a, you know, a really positive.
Yeah, sometimes you
friendship.
can go somewhere and it's sort of, you don't get a feeling for that and you sort of move on.
Well, that's right. There's a good saying. I heard it from Joe Price, and the saying is, if you're the expert in the room, you're in the wrong room. Surround yourself with people that are, you know, and I think that's something to live by.
It is definitely.
I mean, that's true. You know, it's quite deceptive. You can look at that and interpret it in many ways, but just about every single person you encounter, especially in the bushcraft scene, can offer you something, because we all bring our own personality to it, our own ideas. And so if you spend enough time with someone, you'll certainly figure something out that you didn't know before.
Yeah.
And it's a very subtle thing, but it's there.
No, you're right. That's very true. Lavvu.
I'm a Lavvu owner now. That wasn't a thing before this weekend.
Yeah. So first night in the Lavvu.
Oh,
You loved it?
I've built some shelters in my time where I've had like a nice double lean-to and I've had a fireplace inside, and you light the fire and you've got the fire there and you can kind of get really, really hot and you start stripping off and you're naked in the shelter in the middle of the woods. Great. The Lavvu is like the closest man-made thing to that. It was, you get into it, we lit the stove, and it was just like a sweat house. You know,
Yeah.
it was so comforting. It felt like it just has this homely feel about it. Climbing into a space that's nice and warm when everything else around you is, you know, we had torrential wind and rain and ice this morning.
Yeah.
You can kind of go into it and come out of it and just feel like you're part of what's going on. around you.
Absolutely. That's what I found with it. I don't think the Lavvu for me is something that I'll use all the time, especially in summer, because I like hammock. But in winter, I think it's ideal.
Yeah, well, see, that's as soon as I went in and we lit the stove, I was looking out of the door of it, and I thought to myself, a layer of snow, maybe some snow falling, the
Absolutely.
stove burning in the background, and that's sort of the perfect bushcraft experience.
Yeah, well, I think you make use of that up in Scotland
Oh yeah.
in winter.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that'll be, I'm
Oh,
looking
we're living
forward
at
to
that,
some
yeah.
some nice videos and photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be really good.
So
And bonus as well, if you got the Lavvu and you're doing hand drill demonstrations and stuff like that, all your spindles can be inside the Lavvu
that's
warming
it.
up nicely
Yeah, warming
as
them
well.
up. Yeah. Which is a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a game changer. increases the chance of you getting an ember.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but to give a bit of context to this whole conversation, I have never slept in a Lavvu before up until this weekend. I brought my tarp, my 3x3 tarp, which is what I always use, and I was telling Alex, I've never been in one. I've admired them for a long time. I thought they were really cool. The idea of canvas as an outdoor sleeping arrangement is always very attractive. And Alex was kind enough to go, will you sleep in there, mate? And I'll set up the tarp.
I'll rough it.
Rough it wasn't the word. This poor guy has been hammered with rain and wind and people like falling over the tarp and pulling the pegs out, and he was kind enough to let me stay in the Lavvu for the weekend. So
Yeah, at one point I went up and it was so windy, and I thought, well, that's got a weird shape, because we made a tent top with it. And I thought that looks weird. And I went in and the pole was down. It was the wind was actually holding it all up as a structure itself.
it was
I was
essentially a
like,
wind
wow,
tunnel, wasn't
mad,
it?
yeah. So I turned around and faced the door the other way,
Yeah.
which I should have done in the first place. But you know what? It was quite alright. It was nice and warm. I was in the baby bag, and
Yeah.
that was fine. I was fine.
Well, this is
Yeah.
it. And a lot of it kind of comes down to your conditioning for it, doesn't it? If you're mentally in a state where you can accept it, and you've got, you had a nice sleeping bag as well, but
Yeah.
you can get through most things.
But it is a lot down to mental attitude. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah.
I would agree. Especially when it comes to stuff like cold. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know about you yourself, but I'm sure plenty of people watching will have heard of the Wim Hof method,
Yeah.
which is a sort of cold conditioning routine you can get into.
Yeah.
And it makes being out in winter time, in a tarp or in a lesser sleeping bag really manageable, because it's all inside your head. You're trying to figure.
Oh,
it
it
out.
is. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. If you just condition your mindset about it, then it's much better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then
Or you could get a Lavvu,
yeah.
chuck a nice stove in there, and just not worry about it.
Get a Lavvu and get Gray to make you a stove.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's the way
That's
to go.
what you need
yeah.
to do. Yeah.
Because you know what, that stove, it looks like a rough little piece of metal put together, tin can.
It's beautiful. It's
But
folk
it's
art,
amazing, isn't it?
It's a piece of art, that.
It is. I'll never get rid of
Yeah.
that. That's amazing. The skill share, I was hoping to get more people from sort of the community outside of the bushcraft community, but I think the footfall yesterday wasn't too bad.
No, I think for the first time this event's been run, and the caliber of people here. I mean, there's lots of kind
Yeah.
of well-known people in the bushcraft scene.
Yeah.
The caliber of people here was really good, and so for a first time this event's ever been run, it was remarkable how well it all went. And, you had people coming round. And we all had sort of our own free time to kind of wander around
Yeah.
as well and meet people.
Yeah.
So it went really well, and like we've been saying, kind of as we've been talking about over the weekend, these sorts of things tend to just run off by themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
Me and you are making a video about this now,
Yeah.
talking about it. People will go home and talk about it. And next
Absolutely.
year, more and more people are going to be aware of it.
Absolutely.
And it's going to grow. And
Yeah. And it's all about that, isn't it? It's all about making memories, meeting people,
well, this is it. I think if you
sharing skills.
can carry the ethos that was brought into this, about the skills.
Yeah.
None of us are here to make any money. It was about sharing skills.
Absolutely.
And if you can keep it at that,
Yeah.
then I think he's,
Well,
still a really
hopefully
chance.
we'll do something else next year again, and yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to a trip up to Scotland with you. That
you're
would be
coming up to my
absolutely
part of the
brilliant.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. Show me up a little bit there. I'll be like this with the mozzies all the time, isn't it?
No, you'll be used to it, man. But no, yeah, you'll have to go up to my part of the world. It'd be a pleasure to have you up there. And
That'll be good. That'll be good. I would really appreciate that, to be honest
I'll do
with you.
that.
And you know what? It's been a long time coming, and an absolute pleasure to finally share fire with you.
well, likewise, brother.
It's
Likewise.
been really good, Paul. Brilliant. What I'll do is I'll try and get Chris down here.
Yeah,
Yeah. How's that?
That'll be good.
Yeah. All right.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. And we're back. Table filled up a little bit more. We've got Cris and Damian here. I'll let them introduce themselves. Chris?
Hello, hi, I'm Chris. Been practicing, been teaching bushcraft for probably the best part of 10 years or so. It's still very much a learning journey for me. I don't see myself as an expert at anything. I simply see myself as an apprentice in a different year than some of us. Some people have not spent the time I've spent on it, and some people I look up to have spent a lot more time than me. So it's just a journey really. It's just an enjoyable hobby that of recent times is starting to pay for itself, or starting to pay dividends to the work I put into it and how serious I took it.
Yeah.
It's just a big learning journey really, and a great atmosphere.
I like how you said that, because basically, you know, it's like that's the ethos that I really embrace, is no one's better than anybody,
No.
and we're all on a journey, and no matter what we know, we're always learning every day, and that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's like martial arts, isn't it? You know, you get a black belt, but there's always some bugger harder than you.
Absolutely.
That's right, Chris. Yeah.
Damien, how did you enjoy the weekend?
I had a great weekend. I didn't know what to expect at all.
Yeah.
It's just something I saw on Facebook, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I sort of thought, I don't know anybody that's going there. Then Chris happened to mention that he'd seen it as well. He's going to come up. I was like, I'll come and help you, Chris. If you, yeah, great.
Yeah.
I'll come up, see what it's all about.
And there was some good names, wasn't it?
Yeah,
There was a couple of names we recognised.
And
I'd like to see him.
I've followed Paul for a while, and I've sort of seen his posts. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, it'd be really cool to actually meet the person and put an actual person to this little thing I've been seeing on my phone, you know. Yeah.
Strange kid holding mushrooms.
Yeah. This strange person with loads of hair, you know. So
And he's not so strange, is he?
no, not really.
We were doing the tandem hand drill yesterday, and every time he sort of went down, I was waiting to grab the top part of the drill.
No,
But his hair was in the way, and I kept like wrapping his hair around the hand drill.
But again, that's the essence of bushcraft, isn't it? That, you know, a native tribe, it wouldn't have been one bloke doing it. It
No,
would have been
absolutely.
we would have been a team. We would have been all looking for the same aim and all helping each other, and it would have been a natural way of living.
Yeah.
But today's society, we don't do it.
No.
We're selfish people. We
Yeah.
just do it on our own,
That's it, yeah.
and you know,
But
very
this,
much
this is
distracted
what we were
from-
saying to people yesterday. You know, if we were in a family group or a group, if I light the fire, I'm not going to make you sit over there.
Exactly.
No, we're going to light the fire.
Yeah.
So we're going to light the fire. You're going to get the firewood. It would be a group effort because it's
Yeah.
a group fire.
And the skills thing don't matter, does
Yeah.
it? Because somebody else would have done the dishes, somebody else would have done the
Exactly,
prep work.
yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter who's the one that
Yeah.
harvested the meat or who's the
Yeah.
one that recognised the berries. But as a communal team, everyone's stomach
Yeah.
needs
Well,
feeding.
on Friday when we were
Yeah.
coming over here, we were having a chat in the car, and I come from a part of the world where bushcraft is not classed as bushcraft; it's classed as life.
Yeah,
That's it. And the Sun Bushmen, when they do the hand drill, it's mostly in tandem. So they got two people there doing the hand drill combined, while one is getting all the tinder together and prepared and everything else like that. So it's a community sense of sort of workmanship that everybody pitches in, and that's how it would have been. I think that's where bushcraft it would have been like.
Well, I've said to people in the past, of course, so I've been involved in that. You know, if I'm at home and my wife's starting to make the dinner, I don't just sit and watch TV. It's like, oh, I'll peel the spuds, love.
Yeah.
And there's no difference. You know, we're both going to eat it.
Yeah.
So why not? And if I help, it's going to be faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that's the same with everything, isn't it? That's the
Yeah,
same with
yeah.
your fire lighting, with absolutely everything. If we all muck in,
Yeah.
we'll all be warm quicker.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you?
And the bonus part of it all is, you know, especially when you come to events like this, and you meet people like yourselves, and the people that you meet has got the same mindset as you, and the ethos and everything. It makes things so much easier, so
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah.
And
isn't
what's
it?
been a cold and wet weekend,
Yeah.
it's actually been a nice weekend
Exactly,
of spending
yeah.
time with people,
Yeah.
making the most of the environment we're in,
Yeah.
and we've enjoyed ourselves.
He was a nice guy, wasn't
Yeah.
Yeah, he was,
Yeah,
yeah.
Really
yeah,
nice,
yeah.
genuine,
Nice guy.
genuine person.
he? Yeah, genuine. And he came over and he was amazed about your matches.
Yeah, you like my matches, but
Yeah.
equally we've looked at some of his kit, didn't we? We had
So-
a long
so- well,
conversation
yeah,
with
some
him.
of his
and-
pictures of the craft items he's made,
Yeah.
they are they are top notch.
Yeah.
I mean, some of his stuff, he could easily have had a craft stall here.
Absolutely.
But his products, they were really, really good quality
Yeah.
stuff.
The thing is, because it's the first year, because everything went so fast, we only had 3 months to put it together. We didn't know what to expect either. So it was all rushed, but I think it actually turned out well.
I think
it's
it
nice.
set the seeds for a couple of people going away from this with pictures and memories, talking to others and saying, look, you missed out on a good weekend there. That's the reality, isn't it? And perhaps next year when it is a bit bigger and word is spread a bit more and people are realising, it's well worth the drive. There's some good faces there to meet up with. It's not full of idiots, it's full of people who got the right personalities and got the right attitude, and it's about skill sharing. It's not about coming here with, drinking loads of beer. It's about learning some stuff, teaching some stuff as a trade-off.
Bring that sense of community back.
Yeah.
And sense of sharing the skills back. Yeah, absolutely. And in the process, you meet great people, and that's what it's all
we've
about.
networked, haven't we? We've gone away. We've handed out a couple of business cards and taken a couple of business cards, and I think the seeds of that now will sprout, won't they? That we've got a more diverse network of people that we're chatting to.
Yeah, it's little things. I can't remember the guy's name. He's the site manager at a junior school. He was around your fire.
Paul Roberts.
Paul Roberts.
Paul Roberts. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, I've got to teach. They've asked me to do some stuff with the infants. So I'm like, okay, well, this is what I've done, and this is how I did it.
Yeah.
Try it.
Yeah.
It should work for that age group. If it doesn't, tweak it. It's all good. That's what it's about. It's about, I've never made the matches that Chris has made. And I'm thinking to myself, I think I might make some of them. They look quite cool.
Yeah.
And it's all about that. Not be selfish about your ideas and too precious about it. About be willing to share stuff and go, well, actually, try this.
Well,
do that.
It's like Paul. He's really experienced in Angel and primitive skills and stuff like that. And he came and he saw the Rudiker roll. He'd never tried it before.
Never done
And he tried the Rudiker roll and he actually enjoyed the process, didn't he?
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to firelight, fire is a very primal thing. And in the UK we can go through learning so many different methods of making it, and that was just one I hadn't done. And kind of the more you tick off, the more you feel kind of.
But we hadn't invented it. We simply took inspiration from someone else to do it.
Yeah.
But that, you guys then were able to introduce it to me, and I was able to practice it and make an ember out of it, which was.
Yeah, but what I like about them is they not only sort of took it from someone else, but then they went back and they sort of started experimenting with it.
Yeah,
that's
with
what we've
different
got to
materials
do,
and stuff like that. And I was really interested when you were telling me that. That was really interesting. I mean, you did it with pepper, didn't you?
Do it with pepper, coffee, rust, super dry
Crampball
soil,
seems to be a good one,
dry crampball, which is the throwing the sort of the nature into a non-nature thing, really. Yeah. So now we're sort of trying to work out a natural fibre mat we can make to actually do it completely with a dry cramp ball and something we foraged, which I think is going to take a long time.
So a process honeydew maybe.
Yeah, we looked at some of the
Bull
bracket
rush.
funguses, haven't we?
Yeah.
I've tried jute, but it's experimental, isn't it? It's like my demo kit. What I haven't bought is the pile of stuff behind my pillow till that went wrong. I just bought all the stuff that went right. But it is experimentation and playing with stuff and having a go, and some stuff works, some stuff don't. I generally only bring the stuff that has worked. But it's all about learning, isn't it? And a lot of it's self-learning.
And if you're happy to admit to yourself and others, actually, I've tried that and I'm not very good at it. That's kind of the thing, isn't it?
But I've learned something from the try.
Yeah, if you're able to do that, then that person you're chatting can go, well, I've done it, and I didn't do it that way, I did it this way, and all of a sudden, you're like,
you combine different methods together and you come up with a result. That's what it's all about.
I don't think it's indifferent to anything in life. I've spoken to people who are very good at golf, for example, or flint knapping, and they've got to a point where they can't go any further, and then someone's given them a little tweak, or someone's given them a little 10 minutes of knowledge, and then it's inspired them. They've got past that point that they couldn't break, and then they've carried on with their journey, and then it's just that little thing, isn't it? A little bit of knowledge, a little bit of speaking to somebody, Paul, a good example, someone very experienced in a particular topic that you're at a point you can't get past. You learn that one little niche, one little attention to detail, that one little thing that at face value doesn't make a lot of difference, but makes all the difference. And then you're in the situation that we're in, and let's say that what it is. You're doing hand drill in the UK in November, which is a big ask. It's a big ask, isn't it? It's not an easy thing to pull off and routinely get that ember.
On a little one thing with that, when I spoke to you yesterday about, said, why are you using the beeswax? You should make you stick your states bit in your hands, and I'm thinking, well, I struggle with the hand drill. I've managed it a couple of times, but I really struggle with it. So I'm thinking, okay, I won't bother with the spit in the hands. Next time I will try with the beeswax, and hopefully, it'll increase my percentage of successes and decrease my percentage of swearing. which is
Kit's being thrown across the room.
It's interesting actually you did that, and why I say that is I can't recall ever reading it in a textbook, but I know with my bow drills I beeswax the cord edge because it sticks to the spindle. I don't know where I got that from. Just to me it makes a huge difference in it grabbing the spindle.
Well, this is it, and I think this is where we're all fairly kind of on a level field. Is you can read something out of a book. The book will teach you how to do it. Follow, X, Y, and Z steps, and you'll receive this result. And you can receive the result, and you can do that 100 times over, and that's fine. But when you start experimenting with those ingredients that make the result, that's when you start doing all your learning, because you're going outside of what's written down or what's in the middle, and you're using your mind to create something new.
I mean, a classic for me, reading from a book, and it's not firelighting, it's foraging. I hear a lot of foragers talk about dandelion tea, and they recommend it. Now, when I've made dandelion root tea, it's tasted a cross between cough medicine and white spirits. You won't learn that from a book. But again, it's one of those things. Unless you've done it, unless you can speak firsthand about doing it, it tastes awful. In my opinion,
I was quite impressed yesterday that we actually got ember going. I mean, I think I'm really determined like you. Once I start something, I don't want to let it go until I get the end result. But it was quite funny because we done the tandem. We broke a spindle. And then we carried on, and you persevered with your flint knife, and I had my modern knife, and it showed the different.
It's a good contrast, isn't it?
Good contrast. And then someone else came on board that's never done it before. He never done the hand drill before, nothing. He got there, and we were both encouraging him. And all of a sudden, he gets a bloody ember on his first go. And I'm going, whoa, hang on there. It took me about 10 times before I got my first ember. So that was
to do it in November in this climate is not an easy ask. I think to be successful with bow drill, in this climate and in some of the wet weather we had yesterday, it's not an easy ask, is it? You've got to have a realistic expectation. So some of these lads coming along and just having a go and just doing it through brute force and perseverance, you've got to take your hat off to them.
And we had quite a few people that never done any of it before. And they came on and they got stuck in and they really enjoyed it. I mean, the kids were brilliant. I think the kids were absolutely brilliant.
That to me, that's half the thing, is to try and pass over a bit of my enthusiasm. And I am a teacher, and I know firsthand that if I'm not enthusiastic about a subject, I'm wasting my time.
Listen, I was listening.
I have to be enthusiastic whenever I'm teaching. I have to be enthusiastic. I am dyslexic, so when I have to cover English, I really, really struggle because I can't be enthusiastic. History or geography, I love it. Boom. And all of a sudden, I'm off. And I'm saying things about I've seen here and there on TV or read, and the kids are all like, oh, and you can take it different ways. And your enthusiasm on something just spills over to the client group, or whatever age they may be, but it's more so with children. And my thing with the whole bushcraft is I just adore it. And
it's not a job though, is it?
No, just to pass it on.
It's a hobby.
And to pass on a bit of that enthusiasm to other people. So hopefully, if they get a fraction of the enjoyment that I get from it, then that's going to be a result. That's a win, and that's what it's all about. It's just to share your enthusiasm.
I was sat there watching you with that child, and I was getting drawn in because you weren't just talking about the subject. I mean, the subject was there, and you were demonstrating everything, but you were roping him in with different things. And that really got me. I really enjoyed watching you sort of getting interested in what you were doing. So that was good.
I think we were lucky
good.
yesterday. We had enough diverse demo kit to talk about
Yeah,
different
yeah.
things and not generically talk about like a bracket fungus, but actually say this one's a willow bracket, this one's a southern bracket, this one's a horse hoof, this one's a
Yeah.
cramp ball, and actually have all the stuff from nature that we've over the years accumulated
Yeah.
and show people as examples.
Yeah, it's Paul. I've seen you sort of, grow and everything like that, and lately you've been very interested in fungi and mushrooms. And what's your next step?
Well, ecology for me has been a really fascinating subject. It's something I'm really passionate about. I got into it, through, like a lot of us did, learning mushrooms, learning the bushcraft mushrooms, like your horsehoofs, your chagas, your polypores for making fire and stuff. And I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And I took an interest in the ethnomycology, so how they were used in prehistory, how they were used as medicines back in the day, their cultural implications. And so I've been going down that route and learning about the different medicines that are out there, the different resources you can make from different mushrooms. We're talking like sort of leathers and stuff like that, and the uses for them. And it's such a huge subject. I've only, I'll never ever get more than 1% into it. I don't expect, but it's.
Do you feel lucky or blessed geographically where you've been brought up that you had the ability to do that, whereas perhaps living in a town you wouldn't have got that life experience, and that's what you've done, haven't you? Over a lifetime you've built up that from what in your childhood was probably a bit of fun, not realising it was bushcraft or not labelling it, but it's just been your way of life, and you've developed that into something I suspect fairly unique in the industry, that you've specialised in your primitive crafts, and you've created almost a brand of your own specialist tool set.
Absolutely. So for those that don't know, I grew up in South Uist, which is in the Outer Hebrides, and it's about as remote as a place you can get in Scotland. There's no trees, there's no hills, it's just a barren sort of macker land, peat bog type terrain, and obviously it's an island. You've got sort of the shoreline all the way around, nice sandy beaches. Looks like Barbados on a nice day, which is like 3 times in the year. And it was sparse, no materials. That's where I grew up, and I was there for about 20 years.
But there's always some materials if you recognise what you're looking
This is it,
for.
right? So I kind of, I went through the process of learning what I could there, but I realised I had to move to mainland Scotland to start learning about trees, plants, the mushrooms that coexist with those. And so it was, the area you place yourself in really dictates the materials you have to hand. And I found that out. So I did do that. I kind of spent the first 3 or 4 years learning about how to use driftwood and stuff like that that had washed up, and how I could use heather, and how I could cut and dry out peat quickly enough to make it an efficient means of fuel, or building a shelter without wood,
But that's the realisation of being in a survival situation. You're not going to have all your nice modern equipment here. You're going to be on a beach or an environment that's fairly sparse, having to make do.
This is it. So I started out going down the survival road. It was Bear Grylls that got me into it, right? So I watched him on TV. I was an Xbox addict up until that point, and I was watching him on TV, and I thought, that's pretty cool. I'd like to go out and experience that. And what would happen is I'd go out, typical beginner mistake, my bright orange knife, I'd sit it down somewhere, lose it, walk around it for half an hour, grumbling to myself, and like during that little half an hour of forced sort of meditation, your brain's thinking, well, if I don't find this, what am I going to use? And that's how I got into the natural stuff. You then start realising you don't need to bring everything in if you've learned what you can take away from nature and use.
But losing a cutting tool, losing a metal pot to boil water in, losing a means of ignition, it's quite debilitating, isn't it? It's unless you can find something in nature to replace that.
That's right. So as I've travelled around a bit, materials have changed, and that's what I really enjoy about it. Because I've travelled to England, for instance, and I'll discover mushrooms that I've not encountered up in Scotland, just as a result of the soil type or something like that. So
I think it's the beauty of things is a mindset. When you've got the right mindset, and you think out of the box.
The mindset is about adaptation, isn't it? It's about having that core skill in firelighting or green woodworking or cordage, but actually, cordage is a good example. When I talk about cordage to people, they say, well, what plants are good for cordage? I say, well, the plant's academic, the plant's name's academic, you know. Does it twist around your finger? I.e., is it flexible? Yes. Can you tie a knot in it and pull the knot? Yes or no? If you can, it's a usable piece of cordage. What it's called is neither here nor there. But it's the basic skill of recognising that as a usable material and utilising it for the task.
There's a lot of things that you never imagined that would be useful, but in a certain circumstance, it will be useful for
a lifesaver.
It will be a lifesaver.
Possibly in a circumstance.
And the other thing is we've got to think about is that our skills, people say, oh, we lost the skills. No, we haven't. We've changed what we used them for. Yeah. I was talking to somebody yesterday about wild foods. Now, when we go shopping, we don't always write a shopping list. Yeah. We know what we need, and we know in whichever supermarket we go to, say Tesco, other supermarkets are available, which aisle that food's on. So our ancestors, they had exactly the same skill, but they weren't going to that supermarket. They weren't looking for the aisle. They were looking for an environment. So when I drive around, if I see a chestnut tree, I'm like, I'll perhaps pay you a visit in October, and I'll go back to that chestnut tree in October and see if that's producing the large chestnuts, or whether it's the one out of the three, or whatever it might be. And I've got a mental note now, there's a 30-mile radius of my home, where it's worth going to, where it's not worth going to, which trees were good last year, so probably won't be this year, and which ones were rubbish last year, so I'll go to this year. And the skill's still there. We've just adapted it to our environment today. We haven't lost it. We've changed it. And people sort of forget. No, you haven't. You've just changed it. You haven't lost it.
It's a funny mentality there, because I went the same with damsons. I've gone foraging and I found a big damson bush, and it's just laden with fruit. I've gone there the following year and it's just there's just nothing on it. But that's life, isn't it? That's nature for you.
Though, because don't they sort of fruit best? Is it every third year or something?
Yeah. And that's the same with the nuts, isn't it? But that's what I found in foraging. You can't just think I've got to go to the third aisle, that's where I'm going to find it. You've actually got to have an open mind and think, what environment does this plant grow in? And that's where I'll start looking for.
You've got to look for that.
It's very similar. I mean, mushrooms are a prime example of that. You don't look for the mushroom, you look for the environment.
And the mushrooms in that environment.
It's been a wonderful weekend. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you. And I would like to say thank you very much that you accepted our invite and came along. And I hope that we all take something away from this. But to close this off, I would like to ask a question. What best advice would you give someone that actually wants to start adventuring into bushcraft?
Well, the obvious advice is getting out there. I find people like now they've only come out in the summer, or they've only come out to a particular environment. I went into it, luckily for myself, when I went into it, I entered into a 2-year apprenticeship or internship with a known bushcraft provider. Alright, it was expensive, or appeared to be expensive up front, but it was one of the best investments I've ever made. So I did a 2-year program, which started me off on the right track. I started using some of the forums on the internet, going to meet outside the summer months, and networking. And luckily enough, people years ago gave me a lot of advice, gave me a lot of bits and pieces, and that's part of my philosophy now. That with my demo kit, I'll give stuff away because I've passed that on. People helped me out in the early years. But I think really, you can learn a lot from books, you can learn a lot from YouTube, but it's no compromise to getting outdoors and learning stuff, and just without excuse doing it. I've spent my weekend doing it because I enjoy doing it. I could think of nothing worse than sitting in the house or sitting in a pub on a Saturday night, because it'd just be a waste of my time.
Definitely. But on the back of what Chris just said, I would say, you just take that walk. Just go for the walk and actually just look at what's there, and then see something. Go, okay, what's that? What's that good for? Oh, that's a birch tree. So in the spring, I could get the sap, but they've got the bark for the fire lighting, and just walk around and think of stuff. And what's that? And just look at things. Just take your eyes out the screen, look up, and look around you, and take in what's around you. because unless you become more aware of what's around you, you'll never find what you need anyway. So just look up and don't be scared to ask people. We're all scared to look silly, but the majority of people are only too happy to help you, and just ask.
That's a big stigma people have, isn't it?
Because people will help you, and you know, and
Yeah.
you can flip that into whatever that may, whether that be you're a youngster and you're struggling with your English or your maths. You know, the teacher's there to help you. Ask
Just
them.
ask.
And it's the same in this industry. The people there, they're only too willing to help you, and they'll think, oh,
I think it's as long as you're willing to learn,
yeah,
people are willing to teach.
yeah, definitely.
Somebody put it
definitely.
into perspective a couple of weeks ago, and I remembered it, and I said, ask a silly question and you look a fool for 30 seconds,
Yeah.
but don't ask a silly question and you'll remain a fool forever.
That's a very good one.
Can I just interject? I've always been told that the only stupid question is the one that you don't ask.
Absolutely
Yeah.
true.
Because everybody else in the
Absolutely
group
true.
thought of it, but
Yeah.
equally has just sat there going,
Yeah.
I hope he asks that.
What
Because I
about you,
understand-
Paul?
Well, following on from, I mean, it's hard to follow on from that, but for me, the biggest thing is being passionate. You know, go outdoors and experience it all. Get yourself stuck into it. Find your niche and become passionate about it.
But that's very much what you've
Yeah.
done, isn't it? You've created
That's
almost
it.
a
There's-
brand or a
There's
specialist.
a whole world out there, and you go out there and you experience it, and you ask questions. You go, what's that? And you find the thing that really makes you tick, and you focus on that, and you make that your interest, and you become passionate. And when you're passionate about something, everything seems to fall into place, and you'll find your own sort of pathway.
I've also found that when you get out there doing stuff, opportunity comes your way.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody, I won't mention his name, but somebody in the bushcraft industry said, Chris, he said, a lot of people want to work for me, but the reason I've asked you to work for me is not because you're any better than anyone else. He said, it's because I see you out every weekend doing this.
Yeah, certainly weather does sort of distinguish who's actually
Yeah.
you're gonna make it all.
But
yeah.
I mean, I've always said it. Get out year round. Get out in different environments. If you're lucky and you've got a chance to go to Scotland, which is great. If you're
It's
lucky,
like
West
Billy Connolly
Wales,
said, isn't it?
Dorset. There's a lot of places in the UK that are very unique environments that offer different things. If you've got a bit of cash, maybe go over to Scandinavia, Sweden, Norway, and learn another set of skills again in a very cold environment. But yeah, eventually you build up your skill set, don't you? But I think coming out during the cold weather is in many ways better than the summer. If you can,
Yeah.
as Paul was doing yesterday, if you can do hand drill, bow drill, what did you roll in November, the chances are you can probably do it in August.
Yeah,
That's
something
really
I'll
honing
be
your
taking
skills,
away
isn't
with
it?
me then. Yeah, pat on the shoulder there. Yeah, I would say that bushcraft, people look far afield to learn bushcraft, and I would say for anyone that's starting bushcraft is closer to your home than you can imagine.
Well, that's in your
You
gut.
know, starting off in local parks and learning the trees, environments. and
Opportunities there.
everything
You
like
haven't
that.
got to go far to find that
No.
opportunity. We can all have an excuse not to,
Yeah.
but you haven't got to put a lot of effort in.
Absolutely.
You haven't got to spend a lot of money.
One of my best sets was actually found in my local park. So my hand drill, the best one I've got, was found about 100 meters away from my house.
It's the best one, yeah.
So there you go.
I've had bow drill sets out the pallet wood and broomsticks, but it works.
That's how I learnt it.
It just works.
Yeah.
I haven't had to step outside the city, so in my books, there's not a great excuse that you can't practice bushcraft, irrespective of your environment or personal circumstances. It's
Like we were saying earlier on when I was talking about materials and stuff. When I was learning hand drill and bow drill, I didn't have trees on use. There's like a few tiny patches of trees, but if you were to touch them, you'd probably get burnt as a witch or something.
yeah.
But what I used was a coat hanger, a bit of old pallet wood, and away I went.
But what you've done is you've utilised the skill to make up for the
Exactly,
shortfall in the right material,
It's,
which is what it's about, isn't it?
Exactly, it's
He didn't have a £500 iPhone, did he? But, thousands of years ago, he done quite well at bushcraft.
He did, yeah, he
So,
did alright, he did
what I'm
alright.
saying is he didn't have to spend any money, did he? He didn't have to have the latest gear.
Yeah.
He utilised the skills. I was talking to a lad early this morning. He commented on my top, and I said, to me, there's more kudos in if you've got a sewing machine and made it looks a bit ropey than if you bought it from a shop.
Right, the sound might not be brilliant, but basically the camera ran out of battery and storage and stuff like that. So we're just gonna wrap it up. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for coming and thanks for this little sit down. This was absolutely brilliant. It's a pleasure to meet all of you, and I hope we get to do this again. Basically.
I wish a big thank you to everyone, really. You know, yourself included, for putting this event on, for giving people the opportunity this late in the year to come out doing this.
Definitely.
And we've enjoyed ourselves.
Yeah,
haven't we? You know,
it's been fun.
It was a long old drive for us, but it's well worth coming. And certainly, you know, next year, you know, put us down on the list of people more than interested to have a repeat of the fun we've had. But, yeah, I've enjoyed myself.
It's
Certainly.
been nice. Been very nice.
Yeah.
What I will do is I'll put some links down to both Cris and Damian's pages, and yeah, go ahead, pop in and see what they got to offer there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Yeah.
all the best, guys. Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much indeed.
It's been real.
Damian, very nice to meet you as well.
And you.
I'm not going to shake your hand because
No.
I'm still going to take you home.
Yeah, well, we've got half an hour yet, yeah.